The iPad Pro from 2020 was a revolutionary device. Well, for me it was. I mean, without this tablet, there might not even be a YouTube channel here anymore. This kind of put us back on track. Either way, it looks like a new version of the iPad Pro will be coming out in the coming months, and when it comes right down to it, if you are thinking about getting one, you should probably definitely wait until the new version comes out before going out and buying a 2020 model. So, why is that? Let's find out. Ooh. What's up everyone, I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. This video is actually way easier to make for me than the MacBook version of the argument videos, because while the Macs can be devices that I do rank them a little higher on the, yeah, I might need one of these in my life scale, the iPad, it doesn't exactly fall in the same spot on that scale. Don't get me wrong, do not get me wrong, iPads are great machines, and I am a huge proponent of them, but they are more of a luxury item. So it's way easier for me to recommend that somebody wait. And if you didn't realize it, welcome to this argumentative series of mine. This is definitely a two-part video series where today we will argue one side and the next video will argue the other. I know I catch some flack in the comments when I make these videos, but I like doing it this way because it's easier to make a video around one singular thesis than trying to mush both of them together into one. So even though I know some of you will still be angry, most of those angry people won't even watch the video. So if you're watching this, you've already succeeded way more than people complaining in the comments. So just disclaimer, I'm gonna do both. First point of this video, if you have a need now, buy what you need now. If, and as it's an iPad, I do think it's a pretty big if you have a job or a task today that needs the power and the specifications of the iPad Pro from 2020, go buy it. Go buy it. If you have a need now, buy what you need now. That might be my new motto. We might drop, if I can figure it out, you can figure it out, and give that to buy what you need now. But if you don't exactly have that need, let's get into those reasons on why you should wait. Actually, the whole video so far has kind of danced around the first point. There is no real reason to go out and buy an iPad today, or at least there is no point in going out to buy the iPad Pro today. This does kind of assume that you want to use the iPad to do more of like content consumption or use it like a bigger version of your phone. I mean, you want to watch some sweet YouTube videos like the Everyday Dad, which, okay, go ahead and get one. You want to watch some sweet YouTube videos, or maybe you want to watch a movie, you know, things like that. If you're an artist, a graphic designer, etc., and you need a device for your work, okay, well that's not something that I can intelligently speak to, but again, let's circle back to that standard advice that we just gave. If you have a need now, go buy it now. So that covers all of the professionals that might need an iPad. For the rest of us, it's a real stretch to say that we need to buy an iPad Pro. If you need capitalized letters here, or you really want to buy an iPad, there are a whole other range of options that will give you most of what an iPad Pro can do, but for less money. I mean, you'll get a lot of the same capabilities and save your wallet a lot of that hassle. In fact, most of those options will be the backbone for the counter argument in the next video, should you not want to wait for that super iPad Pro Ultra Edition to come out. That's what I'm calling it. The iPad Pro Max version, whatever Apple goes with their naming conventions. So here's a quick summary of the other options if you do need something today. The iPad Generation 8 is probably the best valued computer on the market today. And no, I did not mean to say tablet. That piece of technology is literally powered by a processor that's almost as strong as some actual laptops and can do roughly 85 to 95% of what an iPad Pro can do. But yes, it looks old as heck and has a lightning charger. Lightning chargers, they kinda suck. If you want more of a Pro device with a better screen, USB-C, and an iPad that looks almost exactly like the 11-inch iPad Pro, you can get the iPad Air 4 for way less money, and it is practically all of the functionality. That iPad Air, I'm telling you, the iPad Air 4 is such a phenomenal piece of kit that I have no issue recommending it to you to get that either. But that's not the point of this video, which leaves the iPad Pro just like hanging out by itself. And it's more expensive without having the biggest reasons for that expense that it had prior to coming out in 2020. And if you just have to have the iPad Pro, you could get a used or refurbished 2018 model and only miss out on like one GPU core. Seriously. That's the only real main difference between the 2018 and the 2020 version of the iPad Pro. Wow. That one reason took up the majority of the runtime today. The next reason to wait for the next round of iPad Pros ties in very closely with that last point. The 2020 version is powerful. I love this iPad. It's beautiful. It's actually the computer that I use to type this script because this is still a nice and convenient way to lay around the house on a day off and get some productivity work done. For me, that's YouTube scripts and YouTube videos. But the 2020 in isolation, it didn't really do much to innovate. So there just isn't that much holding somebody to this specific model. Yes, the A12Z processor is very powerful, but now that the M1 Macs are out on the streets, the iPad Pro, the power of the iPad Pro is not a novelty anymore. Even when the 2020 model came out, it's basically the exact same thing as the previous model, just ever so slightly faster. And I mean ever so slightly. How this coalesces into a reason to wait is the current rumors for the iPad Pro 2021 does look to be an innovative model. So again, since the 2018 model exists and you can find it for fantastic prices on the refurbished sites, it's really hard to say, oh no, team, go out and buy the 2020 model. That's my cheering you on team voice. Man, that voice sucks. And speaking of updating certain specs or features, that leads us into the next reason to wait. Actual component upgrades. First off, let's talk display technology since that's the first thing you're actually gonna see. Apple currently uses a more traditional and standard LED technology for its Retina panel displays inside of Macs and iPads. And they look incredible. I've not yet had a complaint about any of my Apple displays. But there is always room for improvement, and according to the current rumors, they will start to move towards mini LED displays. That sounds fancy and all, Gary. Thank you for telling me about mini technology, but what does that actually mean, and why should I wait for it? Well, there are a few key advantages that mini LED offers. One, it will give you a higher contrast screen, but it could potentially offer things like smaller devices and better battery life. And that's really the name of the game when it comes to a tablet, right? The whole reason to own one of these things is because it's as small as possible, has the most vibrant screen available, and it has fantastic battery life. That's, if you want a box of what you need to make a tablet to do, the box is the tablet. But you need to make the box have those things. One of the main reasons that I recommend the MacBook Air over the iPad Pro for a productivity device as of today is because of the huge gulf in battery life between iPads and between the M1 MacBooks. So any little bit better the iPad Pro can get, that is absolutely a reason to wait. The next reason I would wait for the iPad Pro is the newer A14X, or whatever they call the newest brand of processor. We've already seen what the A14 and M1 generation of chips are able to do, and it's remarkable stuff, actually. The M1 Mac Mini costs less than the iPad Pro and is one of the most powerful computers you can buy. And how many times can I do this? It still blows my mind to type that and then say it after I type it. That's such a good price. Well, if we compare the power of the A12Z, the processor inside of the current iPad Pro, against the A14, the processor inside of the iPad Air 4 and the iPhone 12 line, we see that despite its age, it holds up pretty well to the newer chip. The A14 does have an edge in single-core performance, but let's take that and let's extrapolate it to see how well an 8-core A14 might do, and we can make some assumptions on what a potential A14X or Z might look like. And it looks like it could be even faster, more efficient, and just more powerful than even my beloved M1 processor. Yes, power on a tablet and a phone isn't necessarily the main thing to buy it for, but what it will give you is a longer lifespan device that costs roughly the same as something you could buy today. And all you have to do to get that is wait a few weeks or a month for Apple to release the next round of iPads. The next reason to wait is what we just mentioned, the price, or better yet, the value for dollar. Tech release values do fluctuate with time, especially when it's Apple, who do a really good job thus far. I can't make any promises because I don't know and I don't work for them, but I feel secure enough to hazard a guess that they'll keep to tradition here. They do a good job of keeping the new models at the same price or even cheaper sometimes than previous models. So your value starts off fantastic and then slowly dwindles from time with a big old dip right before the new ones come out, because you'll get objectively more everything at roughly the same cost. Everything we've talked about today, better display, better power, all for the same price, that's where the value will be. And to add on top of that, if your heart is absolutely set on an iPad Pro from 2020, after the new models are released, we should start to see very good deals on the older generation. And what will be best is when the 2020 iPad Pros start hitting the Apple refurbished website. And let's take a quick moment to say that the Apple refurbished products are insanely awesome. When you buy a refurbished product from Apple, you basically get a brand new version of that device, but for less money. You get the same return policy, the same warranty, almost exactly the same packaging. Okay, it will say refurbished in like one spot on the box. You get all of that for less money. I highly recommend buying stuff off of the Apple refurbished website, and it will give you even more oomph for your dollar or other currency if you can just wait a couple of months. And the very last reason that I would give to wait for the next iteration of the iPad Pro. This reason is more for those of you that buy the version with the cellular connection, and not everybody does that, so I guess this won't apply to everybody, but when I say more for, I mean specifically for. This is specifically for you. The next round of iPad Pros should follow that iPhone 12 line and have 5G connections in addition to that current 4G LTE connection technology. I know 5G is kind of a divisive topic on whether it's worth it or not. Some people think it's worth the increased battery usage, while others like yelling at the clouds about the march of progress. Slow down, ye clouds! I don't know why they said ye. Personally, I do have 5G enabled on my iPhone, mainly because it's objectively faster in my area than the LTE connection. As I live in a pretty small town, it's not faster than my broadband or my wired internet that I have here in the house. It's not something that shatters the brain for speed, but it is, again, another way that the new iPads will be objectively faster than the older models. And if you use your iPad to keep all of your cloud-based services up to date, having that faster connection, yeah, that's pretty darn important. Plus, if you are going to use the iPad Pro for things like digital content creation on the go, uploading photos and video in 5G is a much better experience than in 4G. The biggest difference that I've seen between the LTE and 5G settings for me is the upload speed is the part that gets the biggest boost. As somebody that spent literally like 10 or plus hours trying to upload files to crappy hotel Wi-Fi, let me say that good 5G connections can be an absolute lifesaver, and that might be worth the price of admission by itself. Look, if you've never been the person to like plead and beg for the hotel Wi-Fi to let you on, and then you set your upload going before bed, but then you gotta wake up every few hours to check to see the progress and pray that the local router hasn't kicked you off, if that reminds you of nightmares, and if that sounds specific, that's because it's happened to me quite a few times. Do not judge those of us that have had to do that, because it sucks so bad. And hopefully the 5G connection in the iPad Pro would be something that could fix it. But at the end of the day, so what, right? I will end this video with what I always say. We're going to end the video the same way we started it. If you have a need now, buy what you need now. If you right now today have a project or a job that requires exactly what the iPad Pro from 2020 can do, don't even hesitate. Go out and buy it today. Hypothetical future technology will not get your work done today. No matter how many YouTube videos you watch, no matter how much you want to get the new thing, it won't get your work done today. However, if you do not have a specific need today and you can wait to see what else is on the market, which should be much easier as it, again, is an iPad. It's not something that could be hypercritical in someone's workflow if you don't already own one. This should not break the system to wait and see what other potential devices will be coming out, as they likely will be here soon. And I do think those upgrades that we talked about today would be enough to be worth waiting for to see what the 2021 iPads can do. And if you like this video, and now that you've watched this, you're like, yeah, I do kind of need an iPad. That iPad Air 4 sounds pretty good. Well, good news. Here's an update video to why I think the iPad Air 4 is the most practical one to get if you have to buy an iPad today. And you can find it by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. I couldn't keep my hand up. Thanks for watching.